Welcome, welcome. My name is Francisco, and I've been again a lucky person because since almost a year that I've been working with a project, a personal project, and a really passionate project for me, which is the Portuguese travel tech community. Uh, at this moment, as we have posted yesterday, we have already 70 startups, and we really believe, just like I've wrote on the email, that as a community, everyone working together, and I'm not talking only about startups, because we really believe that part of the community we have startups, companies like Tourism Portugal, investors, academia, and of course companies, and everyone that is interested in the community can just work together. And we really believe that working together, things can be like problems like this one can be easier to overcome. So that's why we decided to start this project, the co-creation journey, because as entrepreneurs, sometimes one of the things that we don't have is information and access to mentorship, and to most importantly, I think that's examples that we can someone that we can look to and say, okay, let's try this. Well, we of course that we know that every tip and trick that we receive from mentors maybe might not work in our startup, but sometimes I feel as an entrepreneur that um, we don't have as many examples as we would like to have in order to learn how to grow. So that's why we decided to create this project. And for the first step, we invited Tiago Araújo. Tiago Araújo is the co-founder, the CEO, and founder of Hijiffy, a startup that was considered by the World Tourism Organization as the startup that created the most innovative tourism solution, Hijiffy. And I've decided to ask a few questions to Tiago, and the main topic of this co-creation moment is how to go from idea to MVP. But before going to the questions, Tiago, could you please tell us a little bit more about you, and of course, tell us a little bit about EGFI?
Sure, sure. So first of all, thank you, Francisco, for the invitation. Um, when you invited me, I'm a person. I'm someone that I always feel that I don't have as much expertise, or I'm humble, and I try to run away from this kind of events because I always feel that there's more people that are more experts than me. But I'm happy to join this event, and first of all, to try and share the mistakes that I did, and I would be super happy if I didn't. And I always try to, within founder groups, I always try to pass along to other people so that other people don't do the mistakes that I did, because I did various mistakes. That it would be much more rapid if I didn't. So first of all, my background is business, so I don't come from a tech side. But since I was a kid, I was always eager and wanting to know more about technology and how technology evolves. I remember that when I was a teenager, I always wanted to be involved with digital marketing. That, to be honest with you guys, at that time I had no idea what was digital marketing, but I wanted it. I don't know why. And when deciding what I wanted to do, I thought that the business course and business studies would be something that would help me evolve and give me the analytical side that I was looking for. And I did my business bachelor's in Portugal. And after doing this business bachelorette, I wanted to look up for what company I could work on to know more about digital marketing. At that time, there was not a lot of masters, etc. And I didn't believe on this theoretical side of it, of understanding technology through a master degree. I still don't believe that much. I believe that people really need to go into practical stuff. I worked for 5 to 6 years on a digital marketing agency in Lisbon that like 90% of their revenue came from abroad. So mostly Central Europe and South America. And there I met my two current founders. So Pedro was actually managing user acquisition team. So his team was acquiring traffic for Google Ads and for Facebook ads. He was acquiring around €500,000 per month of Facebook ads and Google AdWords. He was then pushing this traffic into the websites that José's team, my other founder, was building. So he's an engineer, software engineer. And I was managing the business development team, so managing all the clients that we had with this website. After 5 years of working together, managing different teams within the same company, I think that we got bored, and we felt that with our multidisciplinary skills, we were okay to build our own company. And this came along for about 1 year that we were thinking of joining tech and travel. That were the two passions that we had. And we decided to quit our jobs actually without any project. So we didn't have any project at all. We felt that we needed some time off to think about what we wanted to do. We knew that we wanted to help travelers travel better, but that was it. That was it.
Okay, so
And that's basically it.
Okay, so that sentence leads me to actually the first question that I had
Sure.
to you. So you did not had any idea, like any business idea?
No, to be
And
yeah, go for it,
tell
sir.
us tell us how the idea that led to the creation of Hijiffy came. So
Yeah.
where what was the source of the idea, the source of inspiration, what was the problem you have identified in order to okay, maybe we can solve this with EGP.
Sure. So basically, most of the entrepreneur stories that you guys hear, most of the times are actually they immediately saw a problem, they saw how to solve it, and that's basically it. These are the main stories that you guys hear. Right now, I'm reading a book of one of the founders of Nike, for example, Nicky, and basically they saw a problem and they found a solution, and that was it. In our case, it wasn't. So the only thing that led me to leave my company was I was traveling a lot. So until then, I visited around 50 different countries. And when going to a new place, I loved to plan my trips, but I felt that my friends actually hated it, and they always asked me for help to plan that.
Okay.
And at that time, like what I felt was, okay, so there's other people like me that love planning, and there's other people like my friends that don't like that much planning. And before actually building Hijiffy, what happened was we built another company that was called Wander Routes. That what it did was help travelers plan their trips, where you had local experts that would actually plan the trip for you,
Okay.
and you would pay for it. But we did failed miserably. One of the things that we didn't analyze was one of our expertise, that was to actually promote this solution. It was super expensive. I mean, to promote it within what to do in Lisbon, the cost per click was high, more than €1. And then we felt, okay, if we're not keen to invest and promote this solution online, if we're not keen to put our own money, we'll never convince investors to invest. So it doesn't make sense. And this is the number one rule that I have since then. If I'm not keen to put my money in, then why should investors actually put their money in?
Okay.
And then we started promoting this solution directly with accommodation providers, saying, okay, you're Airbnb host, you want to give tips on what to do in Lisbon to your guests. You use our technology that has an algorithm. You put the places you like to go, and depending on what the guest wants to do, this algorithm will give your expertise or your local places to go. We immediately understood that hosts of Airbnb were not that keen for this solution for many reasons. One, they're afraid of promoting whatever actually asks for money, wherever it is, and two, they were okay with the way that they did it, of talking directly with the guest, and that's the Airbnb experience. Then we went to the hotels and actually give the same solution, saying, okay, you have this algorithm, you can put it within your website and you can promote it. And we felt that actually putting this algorithm within the hotel's website, it wasn't that easy because most of the hoteliers don't have access to their websites. Like, it's a third party, and
Mm-hmm.
they're not that tech savvy. And then after that, actually, Facebook launched the possibility of doing a chatbot within Facebook. Okay. And what our one of the founders, so Jose, that is our CTO, felt, okay, if we're not able to put this on the website, we're able to put it under Facebook in a chatbot, and we'll have metrics finally.
So
Then basically,
what you're
yeah,
saying is that Facebook was kind of savior for
sure,
you. Okay.
sure.
So was
Then we
the source of like ideation source for Hijiffy.
Yeah,
Okay.
then basically what happened was I was promoting actually putting a chatbot on Facebook for travel tips. And the feedback that I had from hotel managers was, Tiago, this is great, but it would be really great if it actually replied to what time is the check-in, what time is the checkout, what's the cancellation policy, etc. And then Hijiffy appeared with a chatbot for hotels at that time, that replied to guests' queries in general only on Facebook. Then we evolved and we actually went for more channels of communication.
Okay. Before I ask you the second question, Elise just put a question here. Why weren't you like willing or ready to put the money when you decided to create the Wonder Roots project?
Yeah, that's the question. Yeah, so basically at that time, one of the things that I felt was, when I had Wonderroot, that was a platform that local experts would do a travel plan for you. On the part of the cost per click, it was more than €1 per click. So meaning that if I wanted 100 clicks, I would pay €100. And I was super confident that with 100 clicks, we wouldn't sell a travel guide that we did at the moment.
Okay.
So if I was super confident of this, why should I be pitching to investors? And that's why when I
Okay.
understood that, okay, for now, there's no business and there's no business model.
Okay. So, going back to the chatbot and the Facebook savior strategy, um, do you agree that without knowing, so you started with Wonder Roots, and then you,
Mm-hmm.
with the feedback that you were just that you just had from the hotels, you've kind of like pivoted already the
A lot.
idea to what we have today as Hijiffy. So,
Mm-hmm.
but like you said, like in the acceleration and incubation programs, and you mentioned this earlier, that you always need to start with the problem. That's like the main source. You like solve a need or identify a problem and get a solution for the problem. What was okay? So the hotel said, okay, this might work as like a automation tool, a chatbot to or that we could use on Facebook, and customers could ask questions. Um, but what was the other feedback that you're just getting from hotels in order for you to feel that okay, maybe this is the right thing for us to do? We have a business idea here. So what was
Sure.
actually the starting point?
Sure. When we started pitching to hotel managers this solution, first of all, we it's important to mention that I always dramatize a little bit, and I go dramatic of like leaving our work without anything, but we had it. I mean, it was clear to us, and it still is to date. And one day I'll do something related with that. That is, people spend a lot of time planning their trips, like a lot. They visit a lot of websites. They compare a lot of things, accommodation, flights, where to go, what to do, etc. And that's clear for me. It isn't clear for me the solution, and we tried it, and I ran away from that problem. To be honest with you, because probably as it didn't go well for me, I think that it's a super difficult and super complicated problem to solve. And then when we started pitching this chatbot on Facebook for hotel managers, obviously we did to more than one, and we by doing this interviews to the hotel managers, we felt that it was a clear need and a clear problem of actually analyzing how the communication between guests and hotels were working, and if they were already measuring it, and if they already had an all-in-one communication platform for them where the communication come all from one place. So we saw all of the emails and phone calls that weren't being replying on a fast pace and how much revenue they lost. And after actually going into the markets and talking to the right people, we digged into more data, and it was clear for us that there was a problem.
Okay.
And after that, we built around the problem, and we built that we'll be talking about that probably more about the minimal viable product, and that's when we made it to our first investment with initial metrics.
Okay, okay, good. That's curious because I think that's the first time that I know, like, you have an idea, you try to validate that idea, and well, at least a real example, and then okay, this is not
Sure.
this is not the idea
Sure.
that we work in,
You
and
have within the community, sorry, you have Mario from Climber that
uh-huh,
already had two other failed startups. So
yeah,
basically, he was within the industry and understanding how the industry worked with different products, always within the same industry, but with totally different products. And obviously, being closer and being with a startup gives you the possibility of interviewing people and going to a meeting with
yeah,
people that actually decides. And it's super difficult, for example, for me that I was working in a digital marketing agency, to actually sit down with a hotel manager and know what's the needs, or with the tourism national board and understanding. But obviously, if you have a name of a company behind and saying this is my project, it gives you always an excuse to sit down, have a coffee, and understand a little bit better what that person has really as a need, and not what you see online in terms of data, etc.
So, guys, we have here like a MacGyver tip. So, if you want really to validate an idea, just choose a name, set a meeting with the company, and go for it. So,
Without any doubt, you need a website. You guys need a website, some content on the website, have it on your LinkedIn as the founder, and it helps you a lot to have a meeting. Or what else? You just say that, hi, I'm Francisco, and I'm coming, I'm arriving, and I want to have a meeting with you. But what do you do? Like, I'm not having a meeting with you. But if you obviously you say that I'm Francisco from the Portuguese travel tech community, Probably I want to hear you and know more about
Yeah,
you. But
yeah.
if you're just Francisco that works in a consultant's company, it makes it difficult.
Yeah, yeah, okay. I totally agree. I totally agree. So I think that as one of like the first principles of our conversation is whatever is your idea, just go for it and don't feel like 100% sure that it will work. Maybe you need to like change direction to a different idea according to the insights that you're getting from the people, like the potential customer, and so on and so on. So this is, I would say, the first principle. So Tiago, we have actually two ideas. So, and one is Hijiffy. So, and how can you explain us briefly how you guys went from the idea, the first feedbacks, the first
Mhm.
insights that you're receiving from the hotel managers to create the first your first MVP, so minimum product.
Sure, sure. So basically, one of the things that we failed miserably on our other startup was that we decided with Wonderroots to be 6 months closed in an office, developing and developing and developing without talking with anyone. And that was a horrible mistake that we did. That was obviously, it took 6 months of our lives or um, to develop something that we came out to the market, and it didn't make sense. And one of the things that we did with Hijiffy was actually we understood better the methodology behind startups and understanding that a minimal viable product is exactly what's it's mentioned with the wording. It's a minimal viable product. So we had this chatbot for Facebook for hotels. That hotels had some traffic on their Facebook Messenger, and it gave us the opportunity of going to a hotel and trying to give that free trial, or even a trial that was paid but was a small amount. And we rapidly understood while doing this that there was two things that was important for us. That was, the first one was that the traffic coming from the Facebook Messenger of the hotels was super, super low. I mean, the number of interactions they had was low. And this is one of the things that is super important for people to do while doing this idea to MVP, is how big is the market? How big is it? And trying to say it on once more, a way that you actually put your money in, right? So not saying only for investors to see, but actually, if I would put my money, how big is this market, and not lying to us ourselves. That's the fundamental. And we understood that if we did a company around a chatbot for Facebook for hotels, the market was super small. So, and then we understood, okay, but there's other channels that we can help hoteliers automatize. There's not only the Facebook Messenger. And one of the things that we did was we did a chat widget for their website that was super simple, that it was an image, people clicked on it, and it went to messenger.com, and messenger.com/ the company Facebook page. So people would be redirected to their Facebook Messenger, and we
Okay.
would analyze the metrics of coming through there. And this gave us more metrics, and then we made it to an acceleration program that was important for us.
Okay, so your like MVP tool. So in order to validate your idea with with the hotel managers, like the potential customers, was you just used a chat widget in order to insert that chat widget on their websites, of course.
Exactly,
Okay, and then
exactly.
that would redirect to their Facebook Messenger, so to their Messenger tool.
Exactly, that we
Okay.
already had a chatbot placed there before. So basically, we just needed more traffic, and we would
Uh-huh.
need to widen up our our markets, and obviously widening up our markets, it was super important to have more users. We have a question
Yeah,
here.
it's a question from
Yeah,
Coco, our friend from Albania, which is an interesting question.
it was.
While you were validating your idea, were you already talking about a potential price for your solution?
Yes, we were. So nowadays we have a free trial, and after the free trial, we then it's then a paid version, and clients go for a paid version. But at that point, we only had a paid version, or whatever you want to call it, and it was a low price. But what we read in this Bibles of startups was that it was super important that clients would pay something for it. It meant commitments. It
Okay.
meant commitment from that client, and not only having something free. And I feel that actually, from all the things that we failed miserably, I feel that that was the right thing to do. And
Okay.
I still do feel when working with corporates, it's always complicated to make sure that they're not only testing it because it's free, but having some commitment from them. And even today, launching new features in Hijiffy, I always want something in return from them to be the beta testers of our new features. Sometimes it doesn't need to be paid, but there's need to be a commitment, at least in time spent, let's say, per week, of giving feedback of this new feature. And obviously this is money for the company, and this is a cost for your clients, because I mean, if they're giving you every week X amount of time to give you feedback, it's because they're not doing other things. So yeah, talking about price and having something being paid, if it's in money, if it's in time, whatever, it's super important.
Okay, but what would you say to a hotel manager? Okay, I have this solution. You must pay for it. What
Hmm.
was the like your value proposition? Like I'm not saying that you need to talk about pitch deck. That's not it. But in order to make a
Or
match, you have an idea. You of course you want them to have a commitment. What was your argument in order to make them to believe that your solution was good for them?
sure, sure. So basically, first of all, you need to be a really, really good salesperson, because when you
Okay.
have an MVP and you sell something, it's it's exactly the point where I feel that only a founder of the company is able to sell.
Uh-huh.
You're still not ready to actually have other people selling for you, because you're so passionate about the project that you can pass along this passion
Okay.
to others. And I find it really, really important. And obviously, you need to have it clear, as you said, Francisco, and well, that is like, what's the problem? What's the solution, right? And you need to have it clear. You need to have it clear in your minds too, so that you're able to pitch it. And one of the things that you mentioned that is super important is that the problem needs to be big, right? Super, super big. The
Uh-huh.
pain needs to be super big for your minimal viable product. That is something that is super simple, probably doesn't have everything it needs, etc. This person is actually willing to pay for it, because the pain is so big that even what you're offering is not that good, but they still are able to pay,
Uh-huh.
or they want to pay for it.
Okay.
So that's basically it.
And one of the ways in order to see if the problem is big is like Coco asked is measuring the market.
Mm-hmm.
So what so what steps you took in order to measure your market in order to see, okay, Houston, we have a problem, and Hijiffy has the perfect solution to solve this problem.
Yeah. So typically, I slice it down into three. We have the total available markets. Obviously, you see as a whole industry that one day when the company grows, you can tackle. Then what I see is the serviceable available markets. That is, there's something in terms of technology that actually for now you can't go to the total available markets, but that there's something that caps you, that you have your serviceable available markets. Then you have the serviceable obtainable markets, that it's even smaller, that it's something in terms of strategy, in terms of sales strategy, marketing strategy, company strategy, that you're only tackling this serviceable obtainable markets. The way of measuring them, so these three, it's quite difficult, and there's no equation for this exactly, but it really depends on what you sell in terms of products, and how you're seeing in terms of revenue. I can give you example in terms of software as a service, as SaaS, as a company that has a monthly subscription. You can always take into account your average tickets for your clients, and how many clients you can get to, taking in consideration this criteria that I gave, and you can always multiply your average ticket per by the number of clients that you can get.
Okay. I hope Tiago has answered to the question, Coco. Um, I have a few more questions to you, Tiago, and the next one is: did you during this like journey from idea to MVP? And I think this is a question that lots of early entrepreneurs have. Did you had help, mentoring from someone in order to guide you? Okay, so because normally what happens is that,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, creating a business is not easy. And sometimes what happens is that we don't have the enough tools in order to be successful. We don't have help from people. We really are passionate about ideas, and sometimes we feel that some pieces of the puzzle are missing. And one of them is like having mentoring, having help from someone. I know that sometimes the best tips that you can take into account when you're working in a business idea is the tips that you are giving to someone. Okay, so just
Mm-hmm.
follow your own tips, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, having help from someone like you, that you are an experienced founder, during, like I said, during the journey from idea to MVP, did you had help or mentoring from someone?
Mm-hmm. Um, there's something that you mentioned, Francisco, earlier too, that is related to go as fast as you can with your idea. If you have an idea, just
Hmm.
start pitching,
Yeah.
etc. To be honest with you, in the beginning, I actually felt silly. So I felt silly actually pitching, and I was, let's say, embarrassed with the solution that I had. That it wasn't still what I was picturing in terms of product, etc. And this was a big mistake that I did. One of the things that I most recommend right now is exactly what you said. Just pitch it as much as you can. And first of all, the hardest part sometimes for early founders is to get the answer from the markets. Okay, to actually get the response from the markets, and sometimes it's not the response that you're looking for, right?
Hmm.
Because
Yeah.
you have this idea, you have this problem, and you really, really want to, and then you have Mark Zuckerberg on the television, and you're saying, "Yeah, I'm gonna be like this guy," and you really believe it, and you believe that you can make it happen. And sometimes it's not what you're looking for. And one of the things that I most recommend is going out and having this recommendations or suggestions really from the markets. Obviously, for companies that sell on a B2B side, in my opinion, it's easier than on the B2C, probably
True.
because you can actually sit down and take a coffee or whatever and have
True.
this feedback. But I actually had on the Wonder Route that was on a B2C side, we did interviews in people, tourists in the streets. So we went to Time Out Market in Lisbon and we did like 100 interviews, and we got the response that we didn't want it. That was people were actually planning their trips without any need of technology or whatsoever. So this is the first part. The second one is get to know other founders that are in a level, not in a level of Mark Zuckerberg or
Yeah.
Bill Gates or whatever, but are in a step that is like 2 or 3 steps ahead of you. Was one of the things that helped me the most, because they're actually people that did it, and they did the steps that you're looking forward to do. So, as I mentioned, it needs to be like mid-level, not super high
Yeah.
or like Series B or Series C, like mid-level.
Uh-huh.
This was what the another thing. The third thing, obviously, for some people it's needed, for others it's not. For me, was the acceleration program that I did helped me a lot, because I didn't had the base, let's call it, knowledge of startup or lean startup methodology, and it helped me.
Okay.
There's a lot of people that I know that skipped it because they already had it, or working for a startup as an employee or wherever, but it helped me. So the three are markets, other founders, acceleration programs probably, but market and other founders are key for me.
That's quite interesting, and well, that's somehow you just confirm the idea of this co-creation journey, because, like I said, it's we are trying to pick some founders that we really believe that, well, they are not like Series B, Series C, like the Mark Zuckerberg
Sure.
of the ecosystem, and not like God, and as someone that you can just feel that, okay, I can see me doing that, because it's not like a high, a really high level. We have one more question from Coco. So
Coco.
you started your company when companies developing code-free customizable
Okay.
chatbots like Intercom or Drift were already around. Were you not scared to
Mhm.
compete with these giants? Let me just say one more thing. For the other participants, of course, feel free to ask questions. That's the idea
Sure.
of this event. So, Tiago, go for it.
Yeah. So basically, one of the things that we do at Hijiffy is this code-free customizable chatbots, even for hoteliers that they're not that tech savvy, are quite difficult for them to set up. So they're not that tech savvy for setting up a Facebook ad, for example. So they're not keen even for code-free customizable chatbots. That's one of the things. The second point is that we have a single AI agent. So it means that when a new hotel is plugged in into our chatbot, the chatbot from day one already understands questions like what time is a check-in, what time is a checkout, um, what's the cancellation policy, etc. And this is the way that we actually defend versus intercom or drift, because we actually are able to give an automation of above 70% from day one. And we have other things such as integrations with the hotel industry. But it's a really, really good question. The way that we see it is that verticalizing and focusing on an industry makes us be different from these solutions.
Good answer. And innovating is not always creating something new. It's like improving something or creating something different, taking into account what exists, right?
Right, for sure, for sure.
So we have 10 more minutes, and again, please, guys, ask your questions. Feel free, in order to clarify all your doubts, and take the chance to have Tiago here available to answer to all your questions. So the two, three last questions I have to you, Tiago, is okay.
Hmm.
Again, journey. During the journey from idea to MVP,
Hmm.
in your opinion, So, which were the mistakes, and in your opinion, in general, someone that is going through this journey from ID to MVP, which are the main mistakes to avoid?
That's a really good question. Um, First of all, Pedro was asking, and I can talk about that, about if we raised money. We already raised money, but we're within this call. Let's say we're just gonna talk about MVP to idea. Within this stage, we didn't raise money. Um, Mario from Climber, that I really recommend,
Mm-hmm.
will be talking about fundraising. I recommend you guys joining. He's a master of fundraising. The way that he fundraised until now is quite amazing, and the way that he pitched to investors is quite aggressive pitching. So I recommend you coming. So first of all, from my main mistakes, there's so many that it's difficult to point out. The first, it's true. I mean, it's true. One of the things that I would always recommend is, and talking about the question that Pedro did, was when you guys are starting, it's really difficult for you guys to fundraise. Okay, without any metrics, it's difficult to have. Obviously, we have people joining us from other countries, and obviously, talking about Portugal, we have less VC investments than other countries. We're evolving, thank God, but still we have less than other countries. And fundraising with a pitch deck is quite difficult. So make sure that you guys have at least 1 year runway from your own savings to be 100% focused on this, and that money isn't a problem. And this is one of the main mistakes that people do, is they plan to do an MVP in 3 months, to have initial metrics, and on the 6th or the 7th month to have money in the bank for the fund, for it to support the company. And this is one of the main mistakes. The other one, without any doubt, the journey that I did, I suffered a lot because of not having a big problem and having it more clear in terms of solution, what I wanted to do. I would love to have done it as a side project when I was working for another company. And I recommend that. I know that for many people with kids, etc., it's really difficult to find time to have time for your job, that you need to be professional and be good about it, then have a kid or two or three at home, then have time for a side project. But I would definitely recommend having it as a side project. And Francisco, the third thing that I wanted to mention is Francisco already told it. Don't be shy of pitching it as much as you can, and don't take too much time to do the MVP. I see that the main mistake that I did, and I still see a lot of founders that are in the stage behind me, let's say, that they come to me and they say, yeah, we're working on the MVP. And I always ask, for how long have you been working on it? And people say 6 months, 9 months, 1 year. And then they come again 1 month or 2 months later, and they're still into the MVP, and they're still into launching the solution. And I was within this discussion, so I know and I feel completely where you guys are when you're putting a lot of effort into a MVP. And at that time, I always gave as an excuse, it's just only 1 month, 1 month, 1 month. And that's another big problem. Another one that I wanted to highlight and mention, try not to leave your job and go for a startup if you don't have a tech founder within your team. It's horrible to count on consultancy, or to count on like a provider or a tech provider or whatever to do your MVP. You need to have someone that has the skin in the game, and that has this technical background that you need for him to build the MVP with you, and that you can give your insights, and that he's close by. It can be remote nowadays, but he's close. That you can say what you like or dislike, and other people to discuss with you at the same time in terms of technically what's possible and what isn't. And this is key. It's something that it went really well for me, but I saw other people actually putting a lot of their savings to build their MVP while not having a technical founder.
Oh, that's a new one for me, and I agree. It makes things. I believe that it can make things really easier, right? So that's a good tip. So we have two more questions here. Again, Coco and Hangout Campus. I think I know. So the first one from Coco is what did you benefit from
Mhm.
joining that accelerator program during your journey? So
Yeah. So the first one I would say networking, Coco. One of our investors is a former director of growth of Twitter. He sold his company to Twitter. So I met him during the acceleration program, and every day I thank God of meeting him because I have a weekly call with him, and it's like mind blowing. So networking within acceleration programs can be like incredible, of meeting these different advisors that come in for a morning and actually explain to you, and actually going out and talking with them after and creating this network effect. It can be fundamental. And obviously, every time these different people from different areas come into a really good acceleration program, they actually pitch out their ideas, and they tell different things of mistakes that they did, etc. That you're always learning. But number one for me personally, it was networking. Then we have another question that I can go
this
through
is
it
this is what this
immediately.
is a really interesting question. Like
Yes, it is.
if we are in the idea stage or creating our MVP at this point, if the validation with it was prior to the coronavirus scenario, how would you recommend reviewing the possible change in the behavior of the ideal consumer we are targeting? So it's we are passing through times of adaptation. So if you did your validation, if your validation was prior to the coronavirus, what would you recommend to founders, early founders that are in the idea stage, to validate and to try to match the solution to the customer?
I think a lot of times of founders in this stage, and I honestly do. I think a lot about founders on this idea to MVP and catching this coronavirus, and I put them in their shoes, and I find it quite difficult. But it isn't impossible. I see advantages and disadvantages on being in this stage. So I can clearly tell you that the disadvantage, obviously, of pitching idea stage startup to an investor right now in the travel tech community is quite difficult because investors are not that eager to invest in the travel community. So probably they'll go for companies that have more metrics. But on the other side, I see it as a good thing that was on the first stage that I was developing still the MVP. I actually saw it as a stage that I obviously talked with a lot of people, came back, developed, and go back again and talk with people. And that's a good thing. That is, people are quite available right now to talk. Like for me, at the stage that I was in the idea, it was horrible to book a meeting with a general manager because they had no time. A lot of them are actually, for example, in the hotel industry specifically, a lot of them are actually right now in layoffs or with not a lot of work, and they're super keen to book online meetings and for interviews. And I see that as a big advantage. And I have to say that I was cut into this situation because Hijiffy was in the middle of a fundraising before coronavirus. and then it stopped, and now it started again. And one of the things that me personally, but it counts what it counts, and we have here someone from the Tourism National Board of Portugal, so they know more metrics than me for sure. But the way that I see it is, in the next 12 months, obviously the tourism in globally is gonna be harmed a lot. The Secretary of State of Portugal today stated that it's expected this year to be 50% of revenue versus the last year. So it's going to be a huge, huge impact. But what the way that I personally see it is that it's going to be a 12 months of impact, another 12 months of recovery, and in 2022, I would say that we go back to normal. But it all depends on the vaccine, and all these ideas to MVPs depend on this vaccine, and all the humanity depends on the vaccine. So let's hope that this vaccine appears quickly, and that this startups here can go to life and grow.
Tiago, two last questions. Let's see if our participants have any more questions. So these are like one of the questions is like a challenge, a creative challenge for you, and the other one is just to end our conversation. So the challenge I have for you is how to go. Like the answer is how to go from idea to MVP in a sentence in 30 seconds. Are you able to answer this
In a
question?
sentence.
So, how
Okay.
to go from idea to MVP? If imagine that you were writing a book, okay? You can
Mm-hmm.
have time.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine that you're writing a book, um, and you were thinking about, okay, one sentence, 30 seconds, more or less. This is like an elevator pitch, you know? How to go
Sure.
from how to go from idea to MVP. How to
Sure.
put that in
Uh,
a pill.
yeah, sure. So I would say that you need to, first of all, analyze. Then, after analyzing, you need to make the right questions. And after doing the right questions, go back home and do your homework. And then go back to with whom you analyzed it and try to sell it. I would say it's definitely that. And for people, not now the sentence, but I totally forgot to tell this to people. One of the books that I found essential on the idea to MVP is called Mum Tests. And Mum Tests, what it defends, or the methodology behind it, is that you should be able to pitch to your mum your startup, and your mum wouldn't lie if it's a good idea or a bad idea. Okay, so it's all around doing the right questions and not doing questions of pitching the idea and then saying, wouldn't this improve your life? It's the other way around. It's actually doing the right questions of understanding better the problem and understanding better what are the solutions that currently people use.
Okay, good, good. Challenge accepted, 100%. So congratulations. Let's go to the last question, and you've just started to talk about it. If someone asked about like three main tips, or for example, like would you recommend which were the tools that would you recommend? And when I say tools, I'm also including tools, books, thoughtful leaders, in terms of like this journey from idea to MVP. Um, what are the three main tips, or if you prefer, which were the main tools, like I don't know, like software, I don't know, like books,
Yeah, yeah,
people to follow
sure, sure,
that you would
sure.
recommend to?
I'm going to talk only about this stage, okay, Francisco? Idea
Okay,
to MVP. What were the main things that I found useful?
yeah,
As I expect, I don't expect, but I think that our audience are more related to that. Um, so basically, within this stage, I found two books that were really, really useful. That the first one, that or someone already said that it's an amazing book. I think it is. Mum Test is fundamental because it's super. First of all, it's small. You can read it in an afternoon, And secondly, it helps you to do the right questions to the right people. And within the idea to MVP, it's important for you to not lie to yourself.
Okay.
So and sometimes you don't do it because you actually want to lie to yourself, but only because you're doing the wrong questions.
Okay.
And it's fundamental for you to clear that. And the second book that a lot of entrepreneurs recommend, and I totally agree at this stage, is Lean Startup.
Oh
Like
yeah.
it's fundamental to you for you to have the basic, and to skip the idea of, and all this minimal viable product comes from there. And for you to skip the idea of it will take 1 year to build product. And Coco was doing a question that I'm always like afraid of replying. That is, what about if I have a really good idea and I don't have a tech co-founder? Coco, one day I'll do a Tinder for founders. That is to match founders, and so that founders can find tech founders. There's a lot of people in this space. In my opinion, no one still nailed it. There's acceleration programs that join business people with tech people and try to have a match. The only thing that I would say is, obviously you do have timing. You do have timing for that. I mean, you have a timing for your idea and you want to put it out. Uh, and right now is not a good time to say, but for example, for people that are within university, normally I say, like, network as much as you can, and outside your area. Don't network only with doctors, or don't network only with business people, but network as much as you can, because you'll be lucky enough to meet your founders.
Yeah.
Everyone normally talks about the love of their lives. I talk about founders too, that are like super important to meet, because I'm lucky enough to be with two founders that I've been working for the past 7 or 8 years, and we've been building Hijiffy for the last 2 or 3. So before that, we already had a lot of things tested out, and how we worked together and how we clashed, what was the way of solving different problems. And it's always interesting to ask other founders, other startups, how did you meet your founder? How did that happen? I always find it interesting, and one of my questions.
Maybe it's a good topic for one extra nugget of the co-creation journey. It's like just focusing on
Yes.
how to get your co-founder. How did you find your co-founder? So we actually have an extra suggestion from Hangouts, little black book of entrepreneurship. So guys, also look for it, put it on your favorites and check if it's a good book for you. So, any other questions to ask Tiago? So we have already
Mhm.
1 hour of conversation. Let me just remind you that this was the first, let's say, the first step of this co-creation journey. So next Thursday, so May the 7th, we will have Jalmu. He will talk about how to create the best tourism startup in the world. On May the 11th, we will have Mario Moraes. Tiago mentioned already. Mario is a very nice guy and a very experienced founder, who we will talk about fundraising, when, how, and why. So this is May the 11th. On May 14th, we will have Pedro Oliveira. You might not know. He's the co-founder of Landing Jobs. So it's a platform for tech talent. So this is May 14th. May the 19th, we will have Felipe Costa from InfraSpeak, who will talk about scaling a team. And for the end of May, the 21st of May, we will have Christina from Secret City Trails, who will talk about how to build an authentic values and startup culture. So these are the steps that we will do during this co-creation journey. Tiago, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us. I hope you have enjoyed. Feel free to give feedback on our LinkedIn page or by email. If you have ideas, suggestions, please count on us. Please count on us. We are here available to help you. So that's why we are a community. I hope, see you next Thursday. Obrigado. Thank you so much, guys. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Ciao, ciao.
Thank you
Thank
all.
you.
Thank you, Francisco, for the invitation.
Thank you,
Bye
Tiago.
bye. Have a
Ciao.
nice day,
Bye.
guys. Bye bye.
Have a nice week. Stay safe.